Okay, so I wanted to change the topic and discuss something that happened to me recently in Twitter, and also like connected to a broader issue that I am noticing in global politics. Um, I I think there's a very silly debate about whether we should or should not call fascists fascists. Like in the United Kingdom, Polanski went on Louis Goodall, I think, and he was asked, like, "Are you calling Nigel Farage a fascist?" Zach Polanski says yes, and then Louis Goodall says that, but he doesn't want to institute a one-party system, so he can't be a fascist. And I think that's just such a disingenuous position to take. And you can see that also in the United States with all the reaction to the Charlie Kirk assassination. Um, Jartov says, I disagree with your assessment of the American populace. Even some of the more sympathetic people I know don't understand that ceasefire is a lie. Oh, well, yeah, that's disappointing. But yeah, so as a result of Charlie Kirk's assassination, a lot of people are just saying, well, but Charlie Kirk said fascist things, right? Um, and people on the right are saying, how dare you? You should not call people fascists. That is why Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And they keep pointing out to the bullet casings that were, engraved with catch this fascist, which is ironic because that is a Helldivers 2. Like if you play video games, there's a video game called Helldivers 2. And in Helldivers 2, you basically play a fascist world government that is basically conquering the entire galaxy, and it thinks that its enemies are fascist because they are also brainwashed. So they believe that their fascism is the true democracy, and actual democracies are the fascists. So when Helldivers 2 players say "catch this fascist," that is a code word for a specific bomb that you can use in the game. Um, it's a it's a it's a weird thing because it's complicated to understand, because what the player is saying is "catch this fascist." The fascist in that world is a democratic person, like someone who lives in democracy that is being invaded by the fascists, who thinks that they are um, democracy, but really they're the fascists. So people didn't get this because people aren't into video games as much as I am. But yeah, but we live in a society where like Elon Musk is making quote unquote not a Nazi salute. We're expected to believe even by the IDL that that's misunderstood. It's like your heart goes to my heart goes out to you, and not actually a Nazi salute, even though it looks exactly like a Nazi salute. We are being told that, yeah, Jartov is mentioning the young Republicans, like actual quote unquote young because they're like 30 years old, that had a chat where they said things like "I love Hitler," right? And I yeah, so this like chat where young Republicans in their 30s, apparently that's a young person, were saying I love that guy. Like, I don't even want to say his name. Like screw him. Um so very openly Nazi, right? And all of this is camouflaged under a discourse where essentially race has been replaced for fascism. For culture, sorry. Race has been replaced with culture as the denominator of inferiority of other people. So why? Because it's very difficult for you to say that you believe that a specific people is inferior because of their race. People don't respond well to that. Racism is still taboo. What these individuals are doing, these white nationalists are doing, is they are trying to convince people that it's not racist if you say it's culture that makes them inferior, not race. So there's a whole effort to transform racism into an idea that isn't quote unquote racist because it's about culture. You just feel that some cultures are superior to others. You don't think that one race is superior to others. You just think that the culture associated to that race is superior to others. Which of course it's a cop out. It's not true. You are actually saying a racialized point. Um, it's important to understand the significance of this ideology, of this moment, because yes, we are not in the single party autocracy moment of 2020's fascism, but we are in the if you can like go back in time and say where in the whole history of fascism are our current modern day fascists in, ironically, it's 100 years ago. What they are doing is they are developing the ideological architecture for a fascist movement, a new fascist movement, not based on race, arguably not even based on anti-Semitism. Like Jewish people are no longer the number one target of these fascists. They still are a target. Like there was this like very interesting video of Matt Walsh discussing with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro saying, "Oh, but we should not allow people to say that they love, you know, Hitler." Um, and Matt Walsh, of course, he doesn't care about that. So there's still like anti-Semitism. It's funny to see Ben Shapiro sort of discovering that he is supporting the leopard eating people faces parties, the leopard eating people's faces party, and that his favorite leopards might just eat his face. Um, but like the main objective, the main target of this new fascism is asylum seekers. It's Muslims, Arabs, minorities, Pakistanis, right? Um, this is and this is the beginnings of constructing a new theoretical grounding for fascism, which doesn't look like 20th century fascism, because to impose 20th century fascism, you would need to overcome the taboo of 20th century fascism. And it might be easy to do among radicalized 30-year-old young Republicans who will openly say that they love fascists. But it's difficult to do with the masses, with people who have grown up with Winston Churchill and Roosevelt and like winning World War II as formative. Right? It's difficult. So you cannot tell them actually fascism is great. Just go read some Mussolini. What they do is say, no, 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 we're not fascists. We're not like them. They were all about race. We don't believe that races are superior to others. We believe that cultures are superior to others. It's just that we happen to believe that, English culture or American culture is white. And you cannot be English if you are not white. You cannot be American if you are not white. Which is, of course, preposterous. Like, the United States was founded the United States was founded with Native Americans already living in it. The United States was founded with enslaved people like African Americans already living in it. So the United States was not at all, by any measurement, a white country. It was always embracing of diversity uh, to the degree that it is foundational. And that diversity was attacked by racists. But it was there all the time. There were Native Americans and there were African Americans, right? And then there were Irish, and then there were Italians, and they were all like racialized as well. Um, and so these people, they are at the same time as 20th century fascism was in the 1920s. Mein Kampf was written in 1925. That's what this process is about. It is establishing the theoretical groundings of a new type of fascism. There's a quote by this like character Stormfront in The Boys. I don't know if you've seen The Boys, but I'm not going to spoil anything. But if you've seen The Boys, I think it's in season 2 or 3. Stormfront is this like Nazi, literal Nazi, who has been living in modern days because she has a very long life, and she becomes viral. She goes viral as a influencer and content creator, and she is revealed as a Nazi, right? And so people go like, "Whoa, I like a Nazi. Whoa, I wasn't aware of this." And she has an exchange with the boys, with the heroes of the show, quote unquote heroes. I don't know, anti-heroes, I guess. I don't think Butcher is a hero, but I guess not the evil ones in the show. Um, and she says, "You can't stop me because people actually love what I have to say. They just don't like the word Nazi." And I feel that perfectly encapsulates the modern moment of the new fascism. They are trying to distinguish themselves from old fascism by embracing culture as different from race. And um, that is the danger, that they're convincing a lot of people that that is what should lead to a new theoretical grounding for the world. Not race. You're not racial purists, you're cultural purists. Someone asked me on Twitter the other day, do you believe that all cultures are equal? And I responded, no, of course, all cultures are different. He said, no, 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 I mean in a hierarchy that all cultures are equally valid. And I know it's a cop out. I know they want me to say like, oh, of course they are, so that they can then say, oh, but this culture, believes in jihad or whatever. So my angle to this, my explanation to this is that actually trying to rank cultures is very stupid, because you're taking cultures and you are like shaping them into this monolith. But cultures are not monoliths. Cultures are varied, they're flexible, they are internally contradictory at all times. So, what is American culture? American culture includes both Texas, California, New York, Alaska, Hawaii, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Kansas, Nebraska, I don't know, Michigan, Wyoming, and Washington State. All of these places have slight, sometimes even radical variations of the same culture. They don't agree with each other. And so you can say, um, for example, that the United States has a cultural problem with guns. Like, it tends towards having a problem with guns, and that would make it a violent culture. But at the same time, you need to acknowledge that, Massachusetts exists, Washington, D.C. exists, Los Angeles exists. That is also American. And even though for specific political reasons, that part of the culture cannot become dominant, that doesn't mean that that part of the culture isn't part of the culture. So, typical example for me is in Peru, we had this very famous case about whether a judge can sit in front of you and try you while having a crucifix of Jesus in their desk. And of course, like, I don't think they should. But the Constitutional Tribunal in Peru decided that they can. Why? Because they said that that crucifix is not there out of a symbol of religious affiliation. That crucifix is there because to believe in Jesus Christ is culturally Peruvian. So it's there as a manifestation of Peruvian culture. It's no different than having a Peruvian flag, right? And so it argued actually, Bolo is like, I don't want to brag, but yeah, I told you I subscribe to Uruguayan exceptionality, and you're very lucky, and I love Uruguay. But so in Peru, the actual legal system has concluded that being Catholic is being Peruvian, and so 25% of the country in Peru isn't Catholic. Like I think it's like 18% of the country is evangelical. 2% is other Christian denominations, and then 2% are others, and 3% are non, something like that. Uh, yeah, I saw that Chimbolo about euthanasia. I think that's great. Um, I have personal experience with like end of life care in Peru, and it's like it's horrible. And but the Constitutional Tribunal said that being Catholic was Peruvian, even though like I think it's like 3% of the country is either non-religious, agnostic, or atheist. I think it's like 2% are something else, and then like 20% is like evangelicals. I don't have the exact numbers, but like not everyone is Catholics. What I'm trying to say, the country is something like 95% Christian, if you will. But even then, there's a 5% of the population that isn't even Christian. I'm one of those. I'm an agnostic. And so even if the Constitutional Tribunal says that being Catholic is culturally inherent to Peruvianness, does that mean that I or any of that 5% of Peruvians who isn't Catholic or Christian is less Peruvian because of it? Is my cultural representation less Peruvian because it isn't Catholic? Of course not. I am still Peruvian. I still eat ceviche. I still like, causa. I still sing Contigo Peru. I still support the Peruvian football team. I don't know, whatever markers of Peruvianness you want to hold. I've been to Machu Picchu several times, and whatever, I have several markers of Peruvian culture. Just because I don't have one of them, that doesn't mean that I'm less Peruvian. It's the same with the culture as a whole. Like, you cannot say then that, like, while you can say that Peruvian culture tends towards conservative Christianity, you cannot essentialize the culture to say that that is everything that it is. You can single out specific practices of that culture. Like, for example, in Peru, we have a significant problem with interfamilial rape, like little kids raped by family members, because we tend to live in multi-family, or even like one single big family, extended family homes, because of several like socioeconomic problems. So you have like three families living together in one single flat, or you will have three generations of like a family, like three brothers with their entire wife and kids living in the same flat, and so uncles will rape nieces. That is something that tends to happen in poorer sections of Peruvian society. It is a significant problem. You cannot say then that that is representative of the entirety of Peruvian culture, even though you can say that there is a significant problem with rape in Peru. So you cannot really like rank cultures as a whole. You can discuss specific practices, but this idea that you can create a ranking because, say, like, oh, there are some cultures in Africa that do female genital mutilation. Yes. Does that mean that female genital mutilation is absolutely 100% representative of that culture? No, because there are people that will not like it, and that specific trait even can change over time, and there are people who will go move away from that culture because they don't want to be exposed to that, and they will keep their culture with them. So ranking cultures is a very difficult thing to do, because cultures are internally contradictory. Cultures are not monoliths. So but we are being told that cultures are monoliths. We're being told that cultures can be ranked. Why? Because in this 1920s style of modern fascism, they need to replace race with culture. They need to be able to rank them and say we are the superior culture, because they cannot say we are the superior race. And in that regard, I think we are seeing the makings of a new fascism. It's a new way of understanding fascism. Just like there are new ways of understanding many 20th century ideologies. Like I see a lot of like socialist parties no longer advocating for the violent takeover of power. There's a new way of approaching socialism. That's why you have the democratic socialists, right, in the United States, as a big, huge component of modern day socialism. They're no longer going up to the mountains and trying to stage revolutions. They changed how they understand socialism, but we still call them socialists. And like, and they still need to say, like, they still need to have an opinion on Stalin, right? Do you like or do you not like Stalin? Like, has continues to be um, uh, a question that a democratic socialist would need to presumably answer. Uh, Hopefully, they would say, "No, I don't like Stalin. I don't know. Tell me whatever other figure you like, right?" And then it's the same with fascism, right? There's neo-fascists, and do you like Hitler? It's still a question that they need to answer. And what they have answered in that chat room is yes, we do. Like, it doesn't get any clearer than that, right? It really doesn't get any clearer than that. So um, what we are seeing is the birthing of a new fascist ideology, where people love what these fascists have to say, they just don't like the word Nazi. And I think it is important to call it out. I see a lot of people here in the UK saying, "Oh, don't exaggerate." Like the folks at Novara Media, for example. I think it was like Aaron Bastani. I think it was him, and someone else in Novara Media were saying like, "Oh, to have fascism, you need to have a lot of young people with lots of guns, and we don't have that nowadays. So chances are this fascist movement will no in any way approximate the 1940s, 1930s fascism. Like it doesn't need to. It's not gonna be the Nazis coming back to power. It'll be the 21st century fascists. You know how they talk about 21st century socialism? Okay, the 21st century fascists are designing their new fascist rules to oppose um, to oppose democracy and human rights, right? Um, yeah, Rosa Luxemburg is fine. I think is fine. Then you should check her out. Um, but yeah, who hasn't killed anyone? Well, there are people who haven't killed anyone. um, but yeah, okay. So that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm very concerned with this idea of like, oh, don't exaggerate. They're not really fascists. Like, they're not 20th century fascists. They're 21st century fascists because they certainly learned a lesson from 20th century fascism. So I do think we need to treat them seriously. I do think we need to call them fascists, like Zach Polanski does. And I don't think we should water down the threat that these people represent, because what they're doing is they're building a case for a new kind of fascism. They probably won't implement it through a single party, politics, but they will implement it through the kind of stuff that Trump is doing. Like he is sending armed troops into Chicago and like into LA, and he's sending innocent people to El Salvador. Like that's pretty fascist. But yeah, that's basically what I think of this. I do think there's neo-fascism is on the rise, and adding neo is at this point useless. It is just 21st century fascism. That's what's being born here. The 21st century fascists are writing their own version of Mein Kampf. They're just not writing it in a book. They're writing it on Twitter. They're writing it on Substack. They're writing it on like their podcast and their news shows, their YouTube shows. That's what's happening, and it's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Okay, guys, this is basically what I had to say about stuff happening in the world today. We've been at this for over an hour, and it's 7:08. So as always, I need to go cook dinner.